All right, it's 6:05. I'd like to call to order the Conservation Commission meeting for July 25th, 2016. First up is any public concerns or non-agenda items? You guys.
Hi, Dan Hagan, 24 Highland Avenue. Excuse me, I just got back from vacation, but when I got back, some of the neighbors, I know you've been to Highland Avenue before.
Yes, we have.
Had some concerns on the north side this time, specifically behind 161, 163 Northampton Street, where it appears that there are marked wetlands on the city website, state wetlands, and that there's been a lot of cutting and actually roads carved in there with machinery. One neighbor saw a bobcat, and not only a four-legged bobcat, but a machinery actually cutting, and they said it cut down probably 6-7 homes down into the back all the way to a creek.
And this came across Mr. Boyle's property?
I'm not sure. I know Mr. Boyle and Mr. Borchowski. I know they're both close there. I'm not sure where. This is behind the what I believe Mr. Boyle used to own. I think maybe he still does. 161. And then there's also some cutting by the tire place, but I'm not sure. That looked more on the perimeter of their parking lot. That's 151.
Yeah, we had a call, and I went there Saturday, and I went behind Mr. Boyle's property, and there were 2 trails cut to have access to that woodland area. So I'm sure they drove across your property to do that.
Well, what had happened is my brother didn't realize it wasn't on his property. That the property line goes at an angle.
Okay.
And he went on Mr. Borkowski's property by accident. So that wasn't supposed to happen.
So who was doing the cutting?
My brother.
Oh, I see, okay.
He was just trying to open up stuff there for cleaning and maintaining. And then, Peter didn't do anything, so it's on his land there wasn't
Okay.
cutting.
So it wasn't the landowner that was doing the clearing?
Well, the 161, 163, 165, that's owned by my brother, myself, my sister.
Right.
And he was the one doing the clearing. I don't know anything about near the tire place. That we didn't go that far over.
I don't think it's that far over.
No, they were cutting some large trees on the perimeter. And that may
we
not
were
be
cutting
related.
trees. We had a bobcat that was clearing
Right.
with a brush cutter.
That may be two. It looks like it's two
But
separate.
we weren't cutting any trees.
I saw a couple stumps say, 4 to 6 inch diameter cut off and some brush piles, but there also were stakes that were painted orange, like if somebody was looking at the survey markings or something like that. Like someone was trying to update the survey or figure out where the pins are. They were spray painted.
In fairness, the one neighbor that actually saw the bobcat working in there wasn't able to come tonight. They're working, and I know when you bring something up at public speak, you can't really have a complete hearing on it. I guess we're kind of concerned that there's been damage to these wetlands. They are marked wetlands by the state, and there's quite, this particular person who saw it, and again, I'm going by third hand, said there's basically 3 roads been the width of a car driven through there, all through the wetlands. So I gotta assume there's damage to the wetlands. So I guess that's our concerns, that, I don't know what purpose it is, other than it's the driest summer we had, and it's an opportunity to get in there and clear some things and get some sun in there. I don't know. Again, I don't want to speculate. So.
But we don't feel the property owner is the one who's doing the clearing, though.
Well, yeah, yes.
I don't know who owns the land exactly where the road is cut. I mean, somebody did the clearing.
You know if it's mostly on your property or is it?
I always say two-thirds on our property, 1/3 on his.
Okay.
I mean, either way, I would assume there's got to be some kind of mitigation to put it back. Again, I don't know that much about wetlands laws, but I mean, if there's been damage to cutting of brush and roads put in, I mean, I assume it has to go back. If they're state wetlands, you can't put roads in there, I wouldn't think, without putting.
It's just clearing paths. There's no roads. There's no digging or excavating.
What's the point?
Well, in all honesty, I'm not quite sure.
I mean, I'm just curious, are we
Yeah.
leading to building back there?
No. But, I mean, because you can't build back there. There's, on our piece of land, I'm not speaking of the land I don't own, but on my piece of land that's behind those 3 buildings is unbuildable.
Okay.
It's unbuildable.
Then I guess I wanted to know why are you cutting roads?
We're not cutting roads, when you're clearing some brush, just cleaning up some stuff, and I think you got carried away a little bit.
Anyway, again, I don't want to belabor it, because I know you have some projects that actually have hearings, but I guess what I would like to see is if you come out and see if what damage was done to them, because it looks to me like a little more than just some brush clearing. It looks like, I mean, when you've got heavy equipment in wetlands, I don't know if that necessarily is not a violation of
But it just depends if the work is being done in a buffer zone, and I would need Mr. Boyle's permission to go on his property to look at what's being
Go out there
done.
anytime you want.
Okay. And then I would need Mr. Borkowski's permission to go on his property if it crosses over onto that. So I don't know if he's been involved in the discussions or not.
As I said, I just got back from
I think
vacation.
he's unaware.
Okay.
I just got back from vacation, Jay. I'm just kind of the spokesperson as usual. So, but would this be something that might go on your agenda for the next, because I'm obviously going to have neighbors down here, as we always do.
Right. I mean, it could be on the agenda, or we could try to schedule some kind of site visit to look at what it is so that we have an understanding.
I mean, I'll leave that up to the committee, whatever you feel the best way to.
Is there some time that works for everybody? Next Saturday is the 30th.
I'll be out of town, but I think Alyssa's still in town.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing that also.
To Dan Fletcher's email said something about coming back in August. So I think he's out, and Jessica's gone, so it'd be the preview.
Yeah, so, I don't know, maybe we can,
Just to look at it, just to confirm if it's a little in there or not.
okay. Well, if I have you, then I can do that.
Yeah.
All right, so the 30th works for me. 9 o'clock in the morning, something like that?
Yeah.
And you're available also?
I think so.
Okay, great.
Just wanna meet at the 169.
Is that the address of Mr. Boyle's building, 161?
That'd be the easiest way, just park in the parking lot there in the back there.
All right,
It's the 30th.
it is the 30th.
And 61.
161. All right, perfect.
Thank you, appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Is the public welcome?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Is that something?
No, I appreciate it for Mr. Boyle.
Is that something you want to attend?
Oh, yes, we'll probably, I'm
Okay.
sure, if not myself, the person who saw it,
Right.
I'm sure we, I know Dave's always workable.
You look relaxed.
Thank you, like the, you look. I think they're gonna do that a little soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other non-agenda items?
By any chance, did you have any progress on 221 North Ann Street certificate of compliance?
Yes, I have the form. I don't think any of us are familiar with the project, so I had a brief discussion with Melissa.
Yeah.
But maybe you can describe it to all of us.
Uh-huh.
And we can decide whether we think we can make a decision on it.
Oh, sure. Well, essentially, in 2007, Columbia Gas, formerly Bay State Gas, had a facility at 221 North Ann Street. And what it was is, I might have my terminology wrong, but I'll make the right point. With an LNG vaporizer. So it was a tank on the site, above ground, and they would take deliveries of liquid or pressurized gas. The tank would have a process where it would make it into liquefied gas, I guess, into a gas, and they would pump that into the gas piping system. So they came before the board and they received the order conditions. In 2012, they vacated the site. The only things they had on the site, there was no foundations, was the tank facility, a pipe from Route 10 to the tank, and then a conduit for electricity, and which all three things have been removed as of 2012. It was their order of conditions. We are the landowner, and when they left, our responsibility. We didn't follow up on them getting a certificate of compliance. And the contacts that we dealt with, I have talked to Columbia Gas, but our contacts have mostly moved on, retired, and this and that. And so, you know, I'm just starting the process and following up whatever I need to.
Can you say the name of the company again?
It was Bay State Gas,
And when was the original order?
2000,
approximately?
I believe December of 2007, or maybe January of 2008.
So this is the map that David emailed, because we didn't have a copy of it, but this is O'Neill Street, Northampton Street, that's the Single Savings Bank. It's that little area next to it that is kind of gravel area. So basically, everything that they did has been removed from the site. So
Right.
there's-
Well, it's right next, I was
Yeah.
looking around, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we're coming towards, we're towards East Hampton, so bank, and this is what is the way.
And if you go out there or drive by there, so going towards Northampton, on the right-hand side of the street, the vacant parcel that's across the street from the former Fedor dealership, and that parcel, half of it has been mowed, and the other half is where they have the facility. We have, if you go out there, there's 3 wells, monitoring wells, that's for a prospective purchaser when that works.
So I just, we're comfortable in signing a certificate of compliance for the project without ever being involved with it. Basically, that's the description that Melissa gave, was what David's speaking of, so.
And we weren't able to locate the original records in our files.
No, but
correct?
he
So-
sent the map
Other
of
than-
what the,
right.
of what that was, and then she had
So were they
this
just
one.
removing their stuff, or they built it
She
and
had
then
this, she
finished
did
and
this,
then
and
left,
she
took
just-
everything?
Everything was temporary, it's a trailer.
Yeah.
Conditions.
It's just a way to boost gas pressure in
Yeah.
East Hampton.
Huh.
They put liquid gas in the winter, it builds pressure, and screws up all the
Yes,
blowers.
it does.
You're familiar with it.
We were the recipient of that as well.
Yes.
And you confirm that everything's been moved?
Yes, other than the wells that he's speaking of, there's monitoring wells.
And the prospective purchaser would be doing a whole, I assume, a full-blown notice of intent for what's going there, so.
I guess my only thing is, can we find the project instead of just the order of conditions?
I don't think we had a copy of it.
Yeah, it's too fun.
So some files were lost. That's the issue.
Yeah.
So it's just whether someone's comfortable making a motion to approve the certificate, that's all.
We have no other evidence, so I mean, it's tough to say. Yeah.
Make a motion to approve, provide, issue,
Yeah, issue's good. That's it.
issue a certificate of compliance for the project that we've been discussing.
It's a
221
221
Northampton Street.
yes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, thanks, sorry to hold you guys up.
No problem.
David, if you-
Second.
Oh, sure. It, I don't know if I should let Mr. Hagan out there Saturday, but I think that he will.
If you want to wait, wait a second, Jim, I'll make copies for you.
Oh, thank you.
This has to be filed with the deed, right?
I would assume it has to be filed.
You don't want to stand here for that.
Yeah.
You're a marker here.
Feast your family.
I'm gonna wait for a while to go back.
Yeah, I think I'll be here for the aggressiveness. One of these. Actually, you can go Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
So Mr. Boyle gets the original copy?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that needs to get recorded in the registry.
All right, very good.
There you go.
Thanks a bunch. Thank you. Have a good night.
See ya.
See ya. Yep.
Are there any other non-agenda items? All right, and we'll move on to the public hearing for the RDA for Wilson Northampton School for the solar array on 198 Park Street.
Evening. For the record, my name is Mark Reed from Heritage Surveys. Jeff Tannett from Wilson Northampton School is here tonight, as well as John Perry, who is from Dynamic Energy, who will be constructing and operating the proposed solar field at its location on Park Street. The commission is familiar with the site because we did an ANRAD to determine the boundaries of the wetlands and confirm those boundaries so that before you is proposed work within the 100-foot buffer zone. As well as yeah, so this is at the intersection of, this is Park Street, South Street, and the roadway into Whitebrook Middle School. So this is a field, primarily a field located to the north side of the roadway going into Whitebrook Middle School. There are a couple different areas of wetland resource areas, bordering vegetated wetlands on the property. There's one in here, one at the rear of the site, and then there are 3 isolated wetland areas that aren't subject to protection under the state regulations, but are federal wetlands, which were delineated on the site, and there's 3 of them for the site itself. Additionally, when we did the Williston cross-country course NOI filing, instead of doing wetland replacement for that project at the bridge crossing, we proposed to have wetland replication areas out in here, which would be less invasive, a lot less trees cutting, grading, and so forth. So we've incorporated in this plan those replication areas and created a 100-foot buffer zone away from those. So this is an existing conditions plan for that. So what is being proposed is a 650 kilowatt solar array. And this is a rendering of what it looked like from Park Street. And then another one below it, what it looked like from, if you were looking at it, looking from this access drive, looking back towards it. 90% of it is going to be located outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. The only work within the buffer zone is this area here and a little bit here. We're maintaining a 50-foot undisturbed vegetated buffer. And with the limits of the chain link fence that you see in those renderings being an additional 10 feet, so it's 60 foot away from the bordering vegetated wetlands and the replacement areas for that. So there's no excavation with the solar panels. They're on an I-beam system, and what they do is they get driven into the ground so that there's no excavation needed. I just have a plan of that. This is kind of a typical section of it. And this is a cross-sectional view of the beams. It's an I-beam system, a racking system, that they will, with a machine, penetrate into the ground approximately 8 to 10 feet. And so there's no excavation whatsoever.
Any risk of disturbance by the equipment that's
Minimum. There may be some.
What do you
With
use
a
to?
hammer, right, John? It's typical.
I don't know if you've ever seen them drive guardrails on the
Guardrails.
highway.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just drive them down, and so it's
Same
the
thing.
same technique.
And it may be a similar truck, you know.
An 8-foot wide vehicle or something smaller, larger?
It's probably about the size of a pickup truck.
a wheeled vehicle or a tracked vehicle?
They can be wheeled or tracked.
Right. So what would happen is, you know, first, by survey, the limits and the silt fence and erosion control barrier will be staked out so that before any work is done, we're putting up silt fence and fiber log barrier along that area and the fence itself so that they know what the limits are.
So the silt fence is going along the whole perimeter where the fence is going?
Correct, actually, it's gonna go around the entire
Okay,
site.
I was trying to, when I was looking at the drawing, I was trying to determine, you had a silt fence shown on the detail, but then I couldn't tell.
Right.
They were superposing.
Right, right. So the entire site will have silt fence around it. The entire site, as well as fiber log being installed along this section here. We're staying outside of even the federal wetlands, so we're going around those, so we're not proposing any work in those at all, which I know is not under your jurisdiction, but Army Corps has jurisdiction on those. So we're staying out of those completely for that. So, I mean, it's all a meadow right now, would be mowed first. So I don't foresee any real disturbance with whether it's a track machine or a rubber tired machine going in there to drive these piles in there. If there is any disturbance to that, it would get restored. And, you know, it's just gonna be vegetated underneath the whole area and mowed and maintained as such.
Do you think you need both the straw wattle and the silt fence?
Well, we felt that it's worth it to put both in, just to be on the safe side. So that there's no question that there's no potential disturbance going towards the wetland area. There's no grading needed, so the panels just follow the contour of the property, kind of like that one picture there, they just meander through, up and down. So you don't have to go in there and bulldoze it, level, and and disturb it. You just go in there and mow down the tall weeds, hammer in the post like you would like a guardrail.
There was some mention of trenching for wire conduit.
So all that trenching is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. Each one of these rows of panels need to be connected, and the distribution and switching transformer and connections are over here, which are way outside the 100-foot buffer
So
zone.
no trenching in the buffer zones?
No.
Okay.
No, because they would be connected up. We're connecting up to an existing utility pole in the street. That's what these 4 poles are in this
Okay,
rendering.
that's right here.
Right, up in there. So there's poles that equipment would go on to. There may be 3 poles. Talking to Dynamics today, we weren't sure whether we need the 4 poles or 3. But it's all the way up here at this intersection. And again, the trenching is with a ditch witch machine that only cuts in a slice. And it's not a large excavation.
When do you anticipate starting the work?
This year, we hope. The next step is after we get your approval, we have to file for a special permit with the planning board, which will be in August.
Okay.
So we're hoping that by the end of September, we'll be ready to go. But we hope that by the end of December, this is up and running and providing energy to the school and to.
Wow. So by the end of December?
December.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the goal. There's some changes in the solar programs that the state has, so there's some deadlines that we're trying to meet.
Gotcha.
And Eversource is not overly helpful in meeting those.
So you asked for a stormwater waiver.
Correct.
I'm actually, I file a lot of these projects.
Yep.
And I was
This is
just,
a copy.
yeah, I'm just wondering how you came up with why you need a stormwater waiver as opposed to doing the stormwater checklist and the standards for Water Protection Act too, as well as the ordinance.
Because, well, the stormwater waiver is under your local bylaw. So, the waiver request is under your local bylaw, not under DEP's requirement. And we don't have a point source discharge. We are not disturbing land, excavating and so forth. So,
I guess my real question is, what are your views for solar panels, and if you consider them pervious or pervious? And if there's some sort of calculations that you can
Right.
provide to say that there is no stormwater runoff or infiltration?
well, the stormwater runoff, the vegetation underneath it will be as it is today. So that, we feel that all of the stormwater that would run off the panels would be infiltrated into the soils underneath the panels.
So you're considering the panels as pervious?
The panels themselves, because they're on the angle,
Because they have that-
are
The
yeah,
land underneath?
right, right,
Yeah.
right. And I've talked with Mark Stenson a few times about it, and, you know, as long as the vegetation underneath it is still allowed to infiltrate all the soils, then he feels that, you know, it's not impervious because you're above the surface of the ground.
Yeah, I guess my main concern is because the wetlands are down gradient
Yep,
of the project in the work area,
correct.
and there's no stormwater basins or low impact development.
Right, that's why we're maintaining that 50-foot buffer around all those resource areas for that. We felt that the land in itself could handle the runoff from the panels.
It's pervious by the nature of how it's
Yeah,
laid
it's-
out, it's just sort of runoff in its local area.
Yeah, it's just a viewpoint of
Yeah.
engineering.
Right.
That's what it's at.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people consider them impervious, so.
Right. Just knowing the site and looking at the site, we feel that they're just gonna infiltrate into the ground and run off from it.
So you're not gonna do any regrading?
Nope, we're not gonna regrade. We're gonna leave the topography as it exists, so it's, it's a meandering topography up and down. I think you were on the site walk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, right.
That's what I remember.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a, gradual slope up to here. And we're not gonna regrade anything, we're gonna leave it as natural.
Is there some type of maintenance plan to deal with what happens with growth underneath the panels and stay on
Yes.
top of that? So,
Yes, I mean, the whole site would be mowed, most likely twice a year. Or as needed. No, you don't have to mow anything.
do they really mow under the panels, or they just kind of mow between the panels?
Between the panels and then whatever tall weeds are underneath and so forth that need to be cleaned up, they will do.
Just weed whack them out or something
Yep.
like that?
Right.
So no real heavy equipment to do the lawn maintenance on?
No.
You mentioned there's an inverter box. Is that on the plans?
Yeah, it's all up in here.
Okay, so that's just.
It's all up in here.
Okay, so that's an interconnection point as well?
Correct.
The inverter box?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all way up in this area here. I got a detail on the inverter box, but it's all gonna be located up near the intersection.
Are the replacement, the wetlands replication areas, are those in progress?
They will be this fall.
That's the-
Yeah, it didn't make sense to do it now,
No.
because they
It
wouldn't
would be
survive,
dustful,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, right. But they will be, they'll be done this fall. As you know, the cross-country project's moving along.
It's very nice.
Yeah, very nicely, so. So I've got a cut sheet on the inverter, if you want to see that, but it's all,
Yeah, I'm just considering the inverter as impervious right now,
How
so.
big is it?
Well, it's pretty small, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just as a point of clarification, there will be small inverters mounted, so the panels will be in, say, strings of 18 or 19, and then you'll have, and Mark has a cut sheet there, of inverters that would be mounted up on unistrut. So back, what we were pointing to in the front is the switchboard and transformer and utility relays. And yes, those would be on a pad that's not very big. Big being a relative term. It might say the size of the conference table.
It's not this bad, so I don't know where it is.
Smaller than the barn.
yeah, right, right. That was currently on the property. And so I believe when I discussed this project with the commission before, Dan said this is similar to what you had done at the landfill, when that was approved through.
None of us were here.
Yeah, right. That's why I was hoping Dan was around, because that's what he was, right, because that's what, that's what was done with the landfill project when those panels were put there on Oliver Street.
In the landfill, actually, because that's a ballasted system.
Right, has more,
That has big chunks of concrete underneath each.
right, because of the landfill.
Okay,
Couldn't excavate because of the membrane, couldn't puncture that membrane.
Did they file an RDA?
Yes, they did. Yep, and the commission, they waived the stormwater for that too.
I'm worried about the ability for it to absorb.
I'm just worried about the wetlands, and if there was like some sort of temporary stormwater basin while the construction was happening, I think I would feel a little bit better about it, but there's space for providing between the wetland and the construction.
Right, we've got, that 60-foot space, that buffer.
Yeah.
I mean, we could we could do something along that 50-foot buffer zone, but we were trying to minimize the amount of disturbance.
Yeah.
Wattles in place, so.
Yeah, definitely with this, the temporary basins I'm talking about, you have to regrade. for
Right,
those areas.
right, and, yeah, right, you gotta regrade
Yeah.
and excavate and, right. So we were trying not to get that type of heavy equipment in there and excavate and so forth. That's why we went with the wattles and the silt fence.
And the silt fence is trenched into a dam, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Well, if you have the wattles.
There's a detail on the.
Yeah, I have a very small version of it.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
thought that's what it said, yeah.
Yeah,
Makes
right,
it enormous.
Okay.
right. So that, yeah, it's entrenched. So this is a typical section that we have prepared, saying that the minimum distance will be 50 feet, we're maintaining that 50-foot buffer zone, plus 5 feet for the erosion control barriers. And then another 3 feet would be the fence. So 58 feet, when all said and done, will be to the fence. And 55 from the wetland. And that's at the narrowest point. If you look at it, for the most part, we're over 50 feet. I mean, you know, we've got 50 feet here, but then we've got probably 70 feet here and 70 feet over here. So we just have minimum over here. The rest of it we're over.
Is that area outside gonna remain unmowed?
Yes,
So you're not
yeah,
gonna
we're not
do
gonna,
that?
we're gonna leave it
Outside.
untouched, undisturbed.
Yeah.
The only disturbance will, excuse me, the only disturbance will be to do the wetland replication. Well, yeah, we're not, Wilson's not planning on mowing or touching that area.
And what was
So
your-
we'll become forested over, within a few years here.
It's a different maintenance plan and all.
Yeah, right.
What will be the spacing on the posts for the erosion control barriers?
every 10 feet, I believe, is the spec on it. For the silt fence line, there's a stake, and I believe it's every 10 feet between those stakes. I think that's standard for, and then the fiber log placed against it.
Do you have fencing detail? anywhere?
Oh, just we're having a fence.
It's a chain link
Chain
fence,
fence.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, just, we did it here in the detail here,
okay.
just the cross section. And then from the chain link fence to the panels themselves is another 10 feet. So you can get around it to mow and maintain the panels. So actually, when you're all said and done, from the resource area to the panels themselves at the closest point, would be 58 feet at the closest point, and then wider than that further out, so as far as stormwater coming off the panels, you've got 58 feet before it ever reaches the resource area.
Mark, the fertilization plan and vegetation
Yeah.
cover specifications, is that referring to once the erosion controls are removed? What are we
So,
vegetating?
so if there is any disturbance with the track machine, whether it's a track or rubber tire, then they would take care of that by making sure that it's, properly seeded and revegetated, whatever it might be. So we put a spec in there so that the contractor would know, it's gotta be done right, it's not gonna be just fluff it up and go with the plan, so we want it to grow back. We don't want it to just, and it's a perfect time when they do it in the fall, that springtime it'll grow.
How are we gonna access the wetlands once all that chain link fence is up?
We will do that through, this is gonna take some time to put all those panels up. It's not gonna be, a one-day operation. So we'll leave an opening in the gate, or not a gate, but an opening. We'll probably, actually, Jeff, we may have to put a gate in, just to get back there to
Doing
inspect it.
and other things too.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to maintain, we're gonna have to check those wetlands and, each year for a couple of years, so
Yeah.
we'll probably put a gate in so that you can get back there. most likely the gate would be over on this side here, because up in this area, they're gonna have a small educational shed, because they're gonna do classroom educations, not only for Williston, but for White Brook and other schools in town. So it's gonna be open up to the town, or to the city, for educational purposes. So there's gonna be a shed up in here for that use. They're gonna have outdoor classrooms to bring kids in and teach them about solar. So I would think that probably there's a gate, so access, they could come down here and doing inspections of those resource areas needed.
So back to the fence.
Yes.
I know in projects past, we've done 6 inches raised off the ground for
Mhm.
wildlife corridor habitat. That's the only specification I would try to make
That's fine, we can,
plan.
we can, you know, put the bottom of the fence 6 inches off the fence. We just don't want
People.
people,
Yeah.
we don't want some critters. So yes.
Yeah, and certainly there's still plenty of access, you know, below on the White Grove property and everything, to get back through that area. It's-
Do you have an official operation and maintenance plan for?
Yes.
Okay.
We do,
Mowing and.
right. And that's part of our next submission with the planning board, which will be coming up.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if I brought that. I might not have brought the O and M, but I can forward it to you. No, I don't think I did. Because we're just finalizing it today, because we have to file our planning tomorrow.
Consider any questions? I guess we would do a 48-hour notice on the erosion protection. And if you, I guess if you want to add that, the fence height off the ground to it, we can do that. Someone wants to make a motion?
I can't remember languages.
We're going to give you the language.
Perfect.
But we should probably do 3 here, so
Okay.
write in, if you can write in
Conditions.
the conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I make a motion to issue a negative determination, type 3, because the area, though the work is within the buffer zone, it won't alter the subject area that's protected under the act. So a notice of intent isn't required, subject to a 48-hour pre-construction notice and allowing a 6-inch gap under the fencing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. We're in our pre-construction
signatures, right?
Do you ready to check off the box? Or hand delivery.
Yeah, we can hand deliver it. Date it on the copies or something. All the signatures.
And then I think you also do the stormwater
Is that something
aspect of.
planning board can decide? Or is that we have to decide that?
Well, because, yeah, under the under your bylaw, it's,
But we don't approve the request for the stormwater, we have to approve that.
well, we're asking it, right, from the commission, because that's,
Isn't it our bylaw or
Right.
our ordinance?
right,
What's the stormwater ordinance, what's the city's ordinance?
right.
But it's under our purview, I think, because we.
Well, I think it's separate from the Wetlands Protection Act, stormwater standards.
Right, separate.
Well, it goes for the town too, so a lot of the planning board documents, they have to do under the stormwater ordinance as well.
Is there something in that form that we can approve, or?
It's just something the city engineer should look at.
There is
Well-
nowhere for us to sign. this
I know that unfortunately your bylaw, the way it's written is if there's a filing with the commission is the, I don't have it with me, but if you look at the bylaw, then the commission is the approving authority. If there's no filing with the either planning board or conservation commission, then it's the city engineer is the jurisdictional person involved. So that's why we filed it with you, because we were filing with the RDA filing.
I don't think the city engineer's seen that.
So.
Why, do you know who he is?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So, with that,
Yes.
right,
Sure it doesn't say have the authority potentially? I just don't know.
you could call it up, but I don't have the bylaw.
Dan's our
with me.
stormwater expert.
Yeah,
so
right,
that's why-
I know, well, that's why I was hoping Dan was here, right? Dan was here, so, yeah, right, no, it's written, and I wish I brought it now with me. Relative to your stormwater bylaw in the city.
Is it on?
It's on the website, it should be, yeah, it's on, I believe it's on your site.
Which we find,
And I'm not sure Jessica or whoever was, whether before Dan got here for the, Jim Gratian they never did any of the forms except for this one form that has no place for anyone to sign off on or approve or deny.
Well, if we don't sign this off tonight, does this hold your project up, or can you continue with your process and we can speak with Melissa or Dean about this another time?
Yeah, we can, I mean, like I said, the next thing we have to file with planning board.
But does this
It
stormwater?
won't
ship there?
completely hold us up.
Because I can email Melissa tomorrow and say, okay, this came up, what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, normally Dan is.
Yeah, I'll probably kind of both together.
So when we did the cross-country course, the stormwater waiver
Right,
was from.
through the commission.
But what, did we sign a waiver, or was it just in the minutes of?
It was in the minutes,
Okay.
it was just in the minutes, because there's no form, the town doesn't have a form to issue anything.
Can we review those minutes to see what happened? Is there a way to know when that was?
I think it's just simply saying to approve.
so you want to look at the minutes where we talked about the little we issued the
Right.
cross-country course one?
So that was,
I only have, oh, well, we have a whole binder.
Well, I have,
But that was a while ago, wasn't it? Like in the winter?
right, it was.
Yeah, the same time that we did the NRAD for this project.
Okay, so like
they were-
February?
We're doing one right after the other.
Right.
this is the, well, this is for the Logan property where the motion was made to, that the stormwater management plan was consistent with the objectives of DCA and the stormwater management ordinance, so. What else for the Logan properties, that's the minutes I had in front of me, that's all.
Probably been early January, because I think we filed, but then you guys weren't gonna have a meeting around Christmas, so we just set the hearing for after.
Here we go. January 25th, notice of intent for construction of the cross-country running trail improvements. A motion was made to waive the requirement for a stormwater permit under the East Hampton Stormwater Ordinance, seconded and passed. A motion made to issue an order of conditions with standard terms and conditions. So I'm happy following suit with this one if we feel like the stormwater concerns are addressed.
I think so, because just the nature of the project, I don't think it's not a real paved area to put these things in, it's impervious underneath them, so.
Got it, that's very good.
I mean, you have
I was
past
like,
experience
that's
with
the thing.
solar projects.
I just I'm not an engineer, so it's hard to like, I don't do stormwater regulations all the time.
I'm comfortable just by the nature of the project.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna make a motion to waive the requirement for stormwater permit under the East Hampton Stormwater Ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
So we have all the signatures in this document. This one. Four. Check the box. Check down, just give you check down. Look, it's what he's doing. It's, all right, it goes to, it's on the back page. This original.
Okay. Thank you.
That's from Wilson Northampton.
Yes.
This should be the original copy for the Logan property.
Okay, great.
Signed copy, so both hand delivered.
Excellent, thank you. All right, would you like to keep these for your file, or?
Sure.
Okay.
We can do that. It's the engineer,
It's
so-
just the original map.
Yeah, that should be the proposals.
Right. Sounds good. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Good night, thank you.
Thank you.
City engineer, I'm Jeff Tannen from Boston. It seemed my grandfather's name, he was the engineer in the early 1900s. So, the real old stuff, you'll see the name around. Nice to meet you. Catch up with you one of these days.
All right, next public hearing is the request for determination of applicability for the city of East Hampton Ferry Street Water Main Bridge Crossing. This was the form that came. Some documents.
I apologize ahead of time, I didn't have an easel at my fingertips this afternoon.
So we have one of them.
I have one here. The best shape possible. What's what you think? See if that works.
Moving this a little bit.
It's a bit thick enough here, so.
Yeah, it can be.
It's a weird thing.
This time to get organized anyways.
Nobody breathed too loud, did you?
All right. State your name for the
Okay,
record.
thank you very much. For the record, my name is John Gregory. I'm with Tata and Howard. We're the consulting engineer for the DPW on this project, also here along with the city engineer, Mike McManus. Our project here is a water-main bridge crossing over on Ferry Street. Ferry Street Bridge is located just west of the intersection at Emerald Place on Ferry Street. There's currently an existing water main that is within Ferry Street that's below through the bridge abutment. The bridge abutments are a granite stone, an old school bridge abutment that the pipeline goes through. And that water line is in very poor condition, subject to failure pretty much at any time, which with this being a major trunk line for the water distribution system in the city, we really need to get it replaced as quickly as possible. What we're proposing to do is, rather than dig down, cut across through these old granite abutments again, and for the sake of not disturbing the existing water line and keeping it in service while we do this work, we're proposing to cut off the roadway and hang the new bridge using structural members off the side of the bridge on the northern side. I assume everyone, were you able to do a site visit? You're familiar with the site?
I don't think you did be an organized site visit, but is everyone
Okay.
comfortable?
Drive over it
Yeah, maybe
twice a
just-
week, 3 times a
right.
week.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Very popular area, as you've seen being out there. Up on the north side, there are some abandoned industrial buildings in the area. And just in this area here is an old concrete deck, which is part of the old bridge. And you've probably seen the collapsed corrugated metal walkway that's in there. So basically, over the lower Mill Pond area, which has a sluice in this area, as we know, is quite clogged up at the moment, that meanders below the bridge and over in between these old abandoned industrial areas. What we're proposing to do is hang the new bridge off the side, the new main, off the side of the bridge here, again, over this concrete deck. None of the work will be over the waters or anything to disturb it in that manner. That old corrugated metal walkway is going to be pulled out of there, that eyesore is going to be taken out of there and abandoned. We've had a site meeting with the actual property owner over there, so the DPW, the city engineer, whoever is, will be working with them for access.
Do they own that?
They do.
Corrugated thing, okay.
If they want to, yes. But judging by their reaction, they would be very happy to
But
see it.
they gave them permission to deal with it.
Yes, and we'll be working with the DPW as we get closer to awarding a contract to make sure all the necessary paperwork and permissions and access are.
The removal of that was not in this package. I
Um,
don't remember reading that.
I think we just may not have specifically mentioned it. I think we mentioned it in the narrative.
I see, okay.
At least, but it's been about a month since our submission. We've tweaked a couple of things, and we did note that they will be taking that out in its entirety. Reference this area here, this pipe will be exposed. It's gonna be a pre-insulated ductile iron pipe, so it won't be subject to freezing during the winter time. And then we'll need to come back out into the roadway to connect to the existing water line, basically bypass this little piece of pipe that's below the bridge. So we'll be above grade here, dive back down until we reach 5 feet below grade, cut across the sidewalk and into the paved area and tie into the existing main on either side. So just to give you kind of an idea of the span we're looking at here, end to end, we're looking at less than 75 linear feet here. The bridge itself, from abutment to abutment, is roughly 36 feet, and then we're only going to be 20 feet on either side within the roadway. Up in this area here, this concrete sidewalk, that'll just need to be temporarily disturbed so that we can get the water main down below grade to 5 feet, and then we'll eventually tie into the existing main on either side. There are no discernible wetlands in this area. It's basically just the mill pond and the sluice and the concrete abutments in the area, foundation on either side of the bridge. Really don't see any need for any mitigating measures or anything of that fact. No additional impervious area, and this is all paved area now. If we dig a trench for the water main, it's just gonna be repaved again, and no additional disturbances there.
So how do you get from the elevation of this down to the elevation of that? Just a
Yeah.
direct line?
What we'll do is, if you just picture, say this, on the end of the line
Right.
here, we'll put a 45-degree bend on the pipe and to be able to angle it down so that we can basically, for a period of, for a length of the pipe.
But do you have to excavate a trench to do that?
We'll have to excavate a trench, basically just through this is a concrete abutment area, just we'll have to excavate through the sidewalk, and then cut through the granite curbing.
But it's not a trench that'll be exposed to the water on the backside?
No, if you can picture, I mean, the building, the edge of the building is right here, it's pretty tight right in here. And this, there were a couple of pictures in the submission, you might be able to see, you can see that concrete decking.
Right.
Underneath the
go
corrugated
right into
metal,
that.
so that there, we had contemplating attaching that pipe to that decking.
Okay.
However, that decking in our research was, we weren't really sure exactly how old that was, but it could have been as much as 80 years old. The bridge itself is only about 30, 35 years old, so just the structural integrity of that was much more feasible than potentially putting something on that deck. Plus, the bridge is technically within the roadway layout.
Correct.
So if we're over in this area here, we need an easement for the property owner on that side. So the bottom line is we really don't see any long-term disturbances by any means with this project. No additional impervious area. Once they get out there, we would expect them to be done possibly within 3 weeks of mobilization to the site.
So you're not gonna have a storage of material of, gravel that you're gonna dig up and store anywhere?
No, they'll likely need a small staging area, but judging by the terrain in this area, we're probably gonna have to find something out of the way, away from this particular area. That'll be, we'll work with the city.
Put it there.
Exactly.
As you're excavating, how will you prevent material from going into the stream itself, or into the pond?
Into the what?
Into the waterway?
Well, these areas here, this granite curving here, that has almost a 1-foot reveal in that area. So we certainly see that as holding anything back. They're gonna be required to backfill the trenches, and any paving or any securing of the trenches will have to be done in a timely manner, at least at a minimum on Friday, to get that squared away. we don't see, considering the height above this area, there's really no particular way for any of that material to get down into the pond. There are a couple of catch basins in the area. We are gonna propose that the contractor will have to put silt sacks in those catch basins and maintain them throughout construction. Again, we're only looking at a couple of weeks, and once these trenches are paved, I mean, this work here, once that's in, it's gonna be a real quick turnaround. We're talking a very small distance of actual excavated area. The bulk of the work is gonna be to get the structural steel onto the bridge itself, which won't require any excavation, and then to hang the actual pipe. Once they get in and do their excavations, it's gonna be quite quick.
And those connections are critical to connecting the new pipe to the existing system. In order to do that, you would need to have an isolated shutdown of the system, so that there's no desire to keep that shut down for any period of time.
Mhm.
How do you get the pipe on the outside? Would you like reach over the fence or you're just?
Yeah, they'll likely have to temporarily remove some of the chain link fence. There's a relatively high chain link fence in there, and they're gonna be required to temporarily remove that and then reinstall that.
Yeah.
Conclusion of the work, if they need to keep it out for any period of time, we'll put provisions in there that they at least need to have construction fencing in there, just as a deterrent from anyone getting there. But we'll kind of leave means and methods up to the contractor, but my gut tells me they will, if they can get some of this fencing down, they'll likely just hoist the pipe over. They can get over in there, remove the corrugated metal walkway, and do any drilling, epoxy, anything they need to into the concrete itself to get the steel, structural steel in there. And then once the pipe's ready, it's one piece, it's just lifted up and pulled over.
So the work will be done from above rather than below?
Correct. Yeah, they won't need to be within the waterway, and it's quite a distance down
Mhm.
in that area anyways.
Is there anything on the drawing that defines a silt sock to the contractor to protect those other areas?
Not on this here, but where we're at, and I can show you one of our typical silt sack details if you'd like to see it. And
I
this
just
is,
want to make sure that it's conveyed. If we
It will be,
If we make
yes.
a motion on this, we're gonna put in a requirement for that. So-
okay, yes, we'll have a specific detail sheet, and this detail will be included on there. And we also have a call out for any catch basins within the limit of work. And probably any in this area will require use of silt sacks throughout the duration of construction. Happy to answer any other questions anyone may have.
Concerns or questions?
I would just hate to be the guy hanging over the edge doing it. I don't know if you belay, like someone belayed it down or.
Well, the concrete decking that's below that corrugated metal tunnel, it's only about a foot below the actual
Yeah.
area where it'll be attached, so, yeah.
There's ocean construction standards
Okay.
for health and safety. They'll be tied.
Belaying, that was interesting.
Uh,
But we've walked the entire site and been over in that area, and it's
Yeah.
quite structurally sound. There shouldn't be any issues there. But Mike's right, any OSHA standards are a requirement of the contractor, and we'll need to make sure all their personnel is properly trained.
Are you guys gonna remove these trees that seem to be growing between the corrugated walkway and the
A
bridge?
couple of them will likely need to be, and they're not in very good shape
Well, no.
anyways,
Not
yes.
sure how you can even survive there.
Because the facing of the bridge right there is where the piping is gonna be attached to,
Yeah.
so, yes,
So we just cut them and leave the stumps?
more than likely, yes.
Do you usually have a monitor on site that's not just the contractor, just to make sure?
Yes. We are in a contract with the city to have a resident observer, as we call it, on site to oversee construction. So any requirements that you may have, the commission may have, we'll be sure that they're aware of that, have any paperwork necessary on site.
And the existing pipe that's left in place, it's encased currently within the bridge, or it's hanging below?
It's basically,
This is it,
It-
right?
Yeah, it's within the bridge abutment on either side, but it's just kind of out in the open.
And do we have
Bridge.
concerns about it deteriorating into the waterway as it continues to degrade?
I can't say that it won't happen, but one thing working to everyone's advantage is once that is abandoned in place, it'll no longer be under pressure. So it's basically gonna be just an empty pipe sitting in there.
Less likely to.
At this point, I think, I'm trying to remember, I think it's pretty high pressure out in that area from what I recall. So once we abandon it in place and then cap it up above, it'll essentially just be a completely abandoned pipe. Trying to avoid any going down into the waterway for any reason, and also pulling that pipe out from the bridge abutments may be a major issue from a structural standpoint. I won't say major, but it could be an issue from a structural standpoint. Even though this is a city bridge, since we're doing some modifications to the actual weights on the bridge, we had to do a submittal to Mass DOT, and that was one of the questions as to whether or not it would be doing any disturbances to the bridge abutment. Ordinarily, concrete bridge abutment, not as much of a concern, but this here is kind of the old style granite block, and I think we prefer to just leave it be.
Any questions, or?
So the detail of the straw bottle, is that something that you would want to know?
I think it's only the protection around the stormwater basin, or access to that,
You're
you know,
talking
storm
about the
drains.
silt sacks?
Silt sacks around
Yeah.
the storm drain. I think that's the only thing that
So we don't have any concerns if
is.
it's like
just-
right
I mean,
next
yeah,
to
you
it.
have curving, you have paving, you have.
Yeah.
We're on the side of the road where we're furthest away from direct access to the water. Again, here we have, you know, the bridge pillars here. We have concrete decking, and then we have and then there's even a small wall over on this side of the concrete decking before you eventually make your way over into the pond area.
I guess my only concern is the runoff that goes in the water during construction.
Well, if we protect the storm drains, we're probably,
Yeah, but just for the monitor to make sure.
okay.
Tools, before and after pictures, maybe.
We'll be required to take a pre-construction video of the area, and we have many photos from our several times out on site on file. But we typically like to see the pre-construction video just for those purposes. Again, things are gonna change quite a bit with this corrugated metal walkway being removed, but in particular over on this side, just to make sure that we've got anything that needs to be tidied up before we leave the site.
Can you see, if I were to walk over here, can you see down over the corrugated walkway and the
Yeah, you
decking
could,
right down?
you could, if.
You just have to be able to
the
see
only-
straight down.
You can't see straight.
Kind of.
Yeah,
Could you get a picture of that? By any chance, I'm mostly just curious, but to be able to look down and see, you know, that way you can see, oh, look, there's only chain link fencing or
Yeah, yeah.
something.
I could send that, I'll send the
That's-
photo
that'd be
along.
cool.
Again, I have many photos. I'm
Yeah,
sure I
yeah,
have
yeah.
something over in
That'd be
that
cool.
area, something pretty close to it. Sure.
I'm also,
Yeah,
I'm just curious, like, is it U-shaped or V-shaped?
What's that, the actual concrete deck?
No,
or-
the waterway beyond, I mean, it comes down, it's the pond on one side of the
Mhm.
bridge and then where we're at.
I think,
It's
Oh,
almost a
that
channel
could
that
be
goes
kinda
between the
seen.
mills, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
it's-
that
It's
the-
probably just like
now.
one cottage street.
Basically,
I think
if you,
it's-
this is kind of a bad, but it just kind of, there's a channel that goes between the buildings. So here's Ferry Street,
Oh,
here's the
wow.
corrugated thing, and then we've got this channel
That's the channel.
that
Huh.
goes
To
between.
give you,
Okay, here's a good one
Honestly,
too.
it's probably close.
It's
you
from
a
Village
look
Oak.
here. So this is basically standing, yeah, this is this here.
Great.
This is the decking here.
Covered in, this is the walkway?
This is the walkway
This is-
in here, yeah.
How is it so curved?
It's collapsed.
Huh.
It's a mess. Nothing has gone on in this area for quite some time.
Yeah,
And as you can see right here, there is a, almost like a parapet wall.
Yeah.
About 3 feet high. And if you look over that, you can see down
But you
into the
can't get to
pond.
it, probably.
If you really, if you wanted to, you're gonna get tangled up in
Yeah,
this
right.
brush and,
So will this all get cleaned up as well, all of this debris? and
probably
brush?
not. That's away from our area.
Yes, you're
We're gonna
right.
be over in this area here.
Okay.
If they remove this Corrigan metal walkway and they need to get rid of some of this just to have access or to get it out of there, then I would doubt that anyone would be opposed to that.
But the water side is.
The water
this way.
side is over here.
It's that way. But there is a
Oh,
wall
I'm
that's
sorry,
going
the
to
water,
prevent-
the bridge is over here.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
here's the,
waterway is-
here's the corrugated thing, then you have that wall, then you're into the channel of, between the buildings, so. Makes sense.
sort of looks like that, maybe, if you kind of squint.
Yes, that is Massachusetts.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting, we'll be able to see a little bit more, maybe, once the walkway's
What-
gone.
Oh, yes,
Just over
we
the
will.
edge.
I mean, that, the pipeline itself will mostly be hidden.
Oh, yeah, I
by
don't
the,
think anyone would
the-
notice that.
The columns of the bridge itself.
Someone interested in making a motion?
Number 3.
Give you the sheet here, so. So I think at number 3, we put in the condition of the silt sacks around the stormwater locations, and there's something else that,
Do we want to do 48 hour?
yeah, 48-hour notice on that, on the inspection of the silt sacks around the stormwater.
You want it
Yeah, okay.
Now, do we have the same situation with that stormwater waiver that the previous had, or is that not applicable for this particular project?
You're under probably a square footage number that your disturbance, right?
Well, and it's already impervious.
It's already
gonna
impervious.
remain
Exactly, I
impervious.
just wanted to bring it up so we don't have any snafus further down the line here, but.
No, I don't think you have an issue.
Okay.
Or is it? They're also under an exemption.
Yeah, it's intended to today.
Right, 'cause it's utility one, it doesn't change.
Is number 3 the one?
Well, only because that's the only place you can write in any
Okay.
condition. So if we just want to have the conditions in the minutes, I guess we could pick number 2 or something like that and just say, 48-hour notice of the.
Which is what we do sometimes.
I think we should just do this one now.
You guys already have it.
Yeah, we got it, okay.
Yeah. Alright, I'll issue a negative determination for the REA on Ferry Street, Waterman's Bridge crossing. Negative determination 3 for the work conditions, 48-hour notice for construction. And
For the silt protection.
Yeah, and then silt
Silt
protection.
sack. Silt sack protection of the stormwater.
Yeah, silt protection of the stormwater. Around the stormwater catchments. Do you wanna have pre and post pictures? Of the street?
They're already,
Yeah.
but you can put it as a condition if you want.
Yeah, I mean.
Sure.
I mean, I'll check it out anyways, so.
Yeah, I feel like when we
Yeah.
get a request for.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll do
sure.
it, so
Yeah.
anyways later,
Yeah.
so it's probably not good, we won't do that next
Okay.
year. So, you get it?
I got it. I started typing when you were talking.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
So just write that in for the silt sack protection, 48-hour notice.
Yep.
Keep the original.
Yeah. Probably, and then state specifications.
Yeah.
Just get those permits in.
Typically, we would for the order conditions, but
Right.
for the
Since there are conditions. So is there-
Pardon?
Is there any other permitting for this?
No, we just need to get the official stamp of approval from Mass DOT.
Yeah.
And then on jurisdiction, but it's
Yeah,
more
that's like a common thing.
formality, it's under chapter 85.
Yeah, they didn't really give that waiver on the line.
Okay.
Oh.
We mail you a set of draft plans and specs, we send it right to you.
It's the same address.
Yeah.
Oh, Hendrick, yeah.
Okay.
For those.
You don't want that pink one?
No, but the 92. So I'll give you the original on this.
Take that. There you go.
Do you need a paper clip?
Do you have one?
But it's just.
Thank you.
Oh, there's another one.
Another one on the floor.
Very good, thank you.
All right, and Mike had listened for an email that you had about another
Yeah.
concern, so if you want to speak to that, we'll do
Talk
that.
to you down the road. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So there's a couple projects trying to move forward.
Where do I file it? Where do I list these?
Well, I guess it could be a non-agenda item.
Okay, perfect.
I just didn't want to hold up.
Right, everyone else.
So, one project is the White Brook sedimentation basin. There's two sedimentation basins that are tributary to the National Mark Pond. One's on the White Brook and the other is on the Broad Brook. And back when the pond dredging project was permitted, the city also permitted dredging of this sedimentation basin and the Broad Brook sedimentation basin. But there wasn't funding
Okay.
to move those projects forward.
Is that timed out at this point?
The state and the Army Corps permits haven't timed out.
Okay.
The state permit will time out next spring. There was an order of conditions that we got from you guys. And let's see. I have 3 copies.
So, you're proposing to dredge them?
The city wants to dredge the White Brook
The White
set basin only.
Okay.
That sedimentation basin was at capacity back in 2012, when this was originally done. Broad Brook still had more capacity. Broad Brook still has more capacity to take additional sedimentation, but this one, it didn't then, it still doesn't. And in order to protect the pond and all of the dredging that had been done at the expense. Yeah, if you protect it upstream, you can keep it from coming into the pond.
Just, can you orient us a bit more?
Yeah,
What
so
road is this that we're looking
this is the park entrance to Knott's Park.
okay.
The guard shack is
Up that way.
up this
Yeah.
way. Kind of as you come in, you go down the hill before you come back up.
There's a
And-
little trail access right here, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
there's all
there's
the trail
trails.
access in this side, I think.
Yeah, there's an asphalt ditch, kind
Mm-hmm.
of goes down to there.
And the playground is somewhere up? Or is it
Probably
further up?
down,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So the sedimentation basin, it's a gabion weir. So gabions are, I don't know if you've ever seen on the side of roads where there's a cut bank and there's like rocks wrapped in
Williston is doing that on the
Same
edge
thing.
of
Okay.
the cross-country trail.
Yeah.
That's
So-
where I learned about it.
So there's a Gabion weir right there. And what that does is, as the White Brook comes in, it hits the weir, the velocity stops as it goes over the top, and the sediment falls out on this side. And now there's a lot of sediment in the back here, and there's trees growing. Back in 2012, the city worked with GZA to permit this, but also develop plans and specifications for doing this work. The intent would be to build a temporary construction road here along the slope, muck out. It's a tiny volume of sediment. I forget how much it is, but it's not a lot. And then dispose of it on another city-owned property.
Are we talking like tens of cubic yards or?
200
Okay.
is what's sticking in my mind, but don't quote me on that. But it's not thousands of
Yeah.
cubic yards. With the permit for this expiring in the spring, the cities, we've been talking with the Nashwauna Pond Steering Committee to try to get this going. We're considering CPA money, and then matching that with city forces to do the work. If it were to happen, it would be this fall and winter. So once things, dry out even more, if they can't dry out more.
Wow, yeah.
And, the growing season's over to go in and do the work.
Can you refresh or replay the part about the permits and so we've already issued an order of conditions, but it's expired.
It's expired, yes.
When did it expire?
It says 3 years from
Date.
the date, May 14th, 2012.
So it was
So last
Okay, so
May.
that's me.
so May 14th, 2015.
But then there's this one condition, the work authorized shall be completed within 3 years from the date, unless either of the following apply, and the work is a maintenance dredging project. I don't know if this could be considered a maintenance dredging.
Maybe more of a Melissa question for us to.
Yeah, and she punted at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
She said, I need to refamiliarize
Yeah, okay.
myself with the order of conditions.
But if not, then you would just have to resubmit.
You're asking for an extension probably, right?
Well,
I don't
we're
think you
too late.
can.
You can't after the fact, once it runs out,
Yeah.
You have to start over.
Uh,
I wonder if the extension acts.
you already automatically extended.
Yeah, because I think it's through August
Okay.
2008 to 2012. So I'm wondering if you could just double up on your already extended order of conditions. But I'm not sure of the answer. It's just,
Okay, that's called the Extension Act?
yeah.
Is that because of financial?
I don't know the reason. I just know it happens.
I didn't know.
Yeah, it happened, I don't know.
And you said that you have other permits that are still,
Yeah, there's
Approvals.
Army Corps permit that rolled over to a new general permit,
okay.
and I believe we're still good with that new permit.
And that's the only one?
And the state permit
Mhm.
expires next spring.
Is that a DEP?
Was it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Expires spring
Sort of
2017.
like a 401 and a 404.
I got those numbers.
Yeah.
Was there a separate stormwater plan?
Not that I recall. I think this was started before the stormwater ordinance.
Was that before 2008?
No, it was 2012, but before the city had
The ordinance?
the ordinance.
It was subject to the Massachusetts stormwater standards, though.
Right.
Yeah.
So there would be, in order to have access, I think it was like wood matting would be laid down and then removed with hay bales and silk fence, protecting the access and the work area from the rest of the wetlands.
What's the square footage of the, I mean,
Yeah.
is it,
Yeah.
I mean, the 200 cubic yards isn't very much.
I guess I just don't know what the area looks like. Is it a wetland or is it like a
Definitely.
It's
water
definitely
area?
Yeah, this is all mud.
Yeah.
It's all boggy and muddy and,
This says land underwater, which I assume would be some ponded.
Well, that would have been for Neshonoc, right?
It would be underwater if it was maintained, but since it's full of sediment, it's no longer underwater.
the water's just backed up.
And the water's kind of cut new channels and spilling over.
So the purpose of a sediment basin was just to eliminate sediment into the
Into the
pond.
pond, yeah.
So it's kind of like a stormwater management basin.
It is, yeah.
Kind of.
So do you have the size, like 15 feet up the pond, 20 feet? I mean, it's not very,
It's not a large area, I'd say 20 by 20-ish.
yeah, that's what I can picture. Square
The-
trails?
The Broad Brook sedimentation basin is much larger, but we're not.
Is that the one that comes in at the far end of the pond?
You know, I
Or is Broad-
walked it.
No, it's White Brook, yeah.
It comes in, way down there.
Yeah.
Is there a separate operation and maintenance plan?
I don't think there is.
Okay, because either of those things might have had a clause that said you could just do it. But if those don't exist, then we don't have
I
that to
think
work
they
with.
done there was no money or something like that. I know I toured the area with Melissa and Dan, a few years ago.
It seems like there
And this-
should be an ongoing maintenance plan
Well-
for both of these, right?
There should be. I think this was constructed back in the 80s. So they might not have been thinking about going in back then.
Yeah, because this says prior to commencement of work, submit a long-term operation. I just don't know if that was actually done.
It has not.
Probably not.
But the work
since
never
they
started
did
then.
Yeah.
And then the same
But
thing
this-
with the filing with the deed. That was never done either.
So I think we better,
You could table it.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting any action
Okay, great.
tonight.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's definitely gonna help
kind
us.
of putting it out there that we want to do this. Time is of the essence because of the state permit next spring. We're looking at the fall.
Right, okay.
Doing this work. So that's one project.
so the commission will consider appropriate course of action or permitting requirements or
Well,
what are we considering? How to move forward?
I guess
Just to determine.
none of you have seen this place, so.
I've seen it, but not in the
Well, yeah, but
context
not
of
in
the
the context
project,
of,
yeah.
we had someone describing to it, was it Gary Golis? I think we went with him and he was telling us what needed to get done and how they would do it and equipment wise, and there just wasn't money at the time, but it was just it needs to be dealt with at some point.
It sounds like it's gonna need a filing, because 2012.
Yeah.
And you gotta
Well,
redo your wetlands anyways.
Just expired 2015 though. Right, I thought the condition was issued or the
It was.
order of conditions was issued in 2012.
Right.
So then they had through last May, it's been just over a year since it expired.
The whole thing's a wetlands. Right, I mean, you've got a lot.
But it just may get refiled, but it could be refiled the same thing. and
Right,
It
right.
doesn't
Yeah,
cost the
yeah.
city anything to do that little time.
So do we need to also schedule a site visit, you think?
Yeah.
I prefer to do it with Melissa and Dan, that's all, just
Right.
because they have experience with it.
So I wonder if we could
we can try to do it by emails with them and just put something
Well,
together.
the site visit, yes, but then if we could let you know if you do need to refile or if there's some kind of extension, could we do that via email?
I guess we could.
Because that's,
It's not an open meeting concern or anything like that.
yes, okay.
So, sorry to clarify, this is only for the dredging of the two sediment basins. This is not the order of conditions that went with the pond dredging.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a long-term management plan in place for the pond that might affect us?
There probably should be.
That might be something to look into. Because that might reference, it seems like that should have referenced these basins. That's what I thought we were looking at, the
Okay.
conditions that covered all of it. But if they were filed separately, maybe not.
Who should we try to include in the site visit? You, Mr. McManus, or?
I have his email
Okay,
here, so.
Jay, can we put you on the, can that be one of your tasks?
Yeah.
Get in touch with Melissa?
I'm just gonna do
Okay.
it, I'll just take care of it.
Not just the site visit, but
No,
the
just-
explaining and figuring
Yeah.
out what is supposed to happen next. Whether, refiling. Well, yeah, whether refiling is
Can I
necessary.
have that copy of the one that's
Yeah.
expired, just to have something to talk about?
No.
Okay, next
Okay.
project.
Next project is the Lowndes Avenue Pump Station.
The
It's
what avenue?
Lowndes Avenue. It's at the end of
Where?
Williston.
Oh, it's the one that runs at the bottom of the park. It's the one-way street. Yeah.
But it's two-way here.
Is it two-way there? Okay.
This is the guard shack.
Yep.
It's right there. This is a very, very old pump station, and it's difficult to access in order to maintain. There's these 5 houses go to a gravity sewer that goes to that pump station, that pumps it to Wilson Avenue, and then it flows this way. There's also the Nantucket Park Pump Station, which is a larger pump station over here. And we can run a gravity pipe along this blue dotted line to pick up these houses, bring it to this pump station, and then we can abandon that pump station altogether.
And that's what you prefer to do?
Yeah, just because there's, that it's very difficult to get into that pump station in order to maintain the pumps.
Gotcha.
It's a constricted access, and so to work on the pumps inside a tube is difficult.
And there's sewer, it's part of the city sewer system?
It
right?
is, yeah. There's
Did you say it's residential sewage or it's storm sewage?
residential.
Okay.
There is all this area is wet in here, and I think there's like maybe an intermittent stream that we would have to cross at this point. So at some point in time, once we advance the design further, we'll be bringing this.
Okay.
This.
Where does that station pump to?
It pumps to the interceptor, the Plains interceptor sewer.
But it's going up that direction?
Yeah,
Okay.
which goes this general direction.
And what's the name of this station? Does it have a name?
Nantucket.
Nantucket.
Just to be clear, you were trying to get access in here or redo this pipe or what?
No, it's a brand new pipe.
Okay.
Brand new gravity sewer down to here.
Okay.
So
You're gonna
the
build
history
that.
behind this pump station was that in order to build these houses, the contractor needed to put a pump station in. So he put the cheapest pump station he could possibly find in, made the connections, and now it's the city's problem.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you come down here through the wet area rather than going along the road? elevation,
Yeah, the grade starts to
Okay.
drop off as you come this way.
or, so you get gravity working with you?
Yeah,
Yep.
you could do that. You would just be really deep by the time you get
Mhm.
to here. And then there's other conflicts with it could be done. It's just easier to go this way. There's other thought to, because there's a playground right here. And we talked, or Rich Young and others in the city have talked with the city tree warden. And he's like, I don't want any trees cut down for this project. So there was a thought about directional drilling across this way to cut the corner.
Mhm.
But there's an expense with that. It's more
Right.
expensive than an open cut, and the city can't self-perform that. But something like this is within the city's
Right, that's right.
capabilities.
So you're gonna propose, come to the commission later with it?
Yeah, at some point in time, we need to develop the plans for it before we do any of that.
Would this path, does this follow an existing?
Yeah, there's.
Looks like there's a
Roadway,
road
right?
here.
There's
Okay.
a road there for maintenance.
So potentially the only issue is the stream crossing?
Is the street crossing.
Okay.
And it's a shallow hole.
And then if this is
Access
a
road.
Yeah.
buffer zone,
We would be within the buffer zone.
yeah. And the wetland, it's funny, I put that out there just to delineate it. It's an already road,
Yeah,
so.
it's a dirt road, right? It's not paved,
Yeah.
but there's a
Yeah.
road running there.
Here?
Yeah, because there's some bike trails off the side of it.
Oh,
Almost looks like it could be paved, but it also could be dirt. It's not
yeah,
that
you could
great.
even see it, I
It
think,
might
this
even,
little
it might be
substation
partially
portion of the road.
paved.
Yeah, it could just be like a one-lane paved road or.
If it's paved,
Yeah,
it's
not-
Hasn't
not
been
one
frequently,
phase.
Yeah.
frequently, yeah.
Yeah, not one phase.
That,
might as well be gravel.
yeah, that makes. Great.
So the next one is the Ballard Street Pump Station abandonment. Ballard Street is up by Florence.
We had a homeowner
Yeah.
just
proposal,
Right.
yeah. No,
Well,
No, He was trying to drain his yard, he was trying to put some French drains on his property because
it's
it's.
on a corner.
Yeah.
Well,
Some streets.
so this is the Ballard Street Pump Station.
okay.
The sewer comes in this way, and the homes at Florence are connected in the back. At the pump station, force main does something like this and connects out to a manhole there before it goes down by gravity. This is another one, it's an older pump station. It's nearing the end of its useful life. And there's the possibility of connecting to an existing sewer manhole down on Northampton Street. So we would install a new sewer line, a gravity line here, across Ballard, and then straight across to that existing manhole. For this, we would have to cross the stream there. And for that, I think we would consider pipe jacking or directional drilling underneath the stream.
Underneath the stream or the street?
The stream.
Stream.
And then,
Consider, can you say those two things again?
either pipe jacking or directional drilling.
What is pipe jacking?
That's where you push the,
Oh, underground.
yeah.
And this is wetland or what's the light green?
Yeah, it's kind of a,
Marsh, okay.
yeah, it's kind of a marshy thing.
Yep.
And that's what, he's trying to drain his property. There's a
Right.
French drains along here.
Over here by on the backside of the apartments.
And,
The
this,
house that we permitted is one of those right
it's
there,
this,
right?
this,
Oh, on the
yeah,
corner,
right-
okay,
right
he
there.
surrounds the, yeah.
Right,
So
because
that's
he's
that
got
pump station.
the,
Because he.
The easement.
Easement.
Right, because I had, we had hail bales across the water that would go under the road that would get into this wetlands while he was digging trenches and things like that.
So do you put in a French drain?
He was working on putting French drains in his yard, we're trying to protect the wetland, and there's a tube that goes under the street, under your access road.
But it's
Well,
all to that side of the access road.
Yep.
But doesn't his drain have to?
It does not, no.
Doesn't? Okay.
It did not
Where do the
go,
drains go?
Just into the ground, just to storage, yeah, just a
Yeah.
dry well, basically,
Yeah.
basically that kind of.
it definitely did not go across the
Right.
easement.
We were just concerned while he was digging these holes, not to have things, have a washout and have it going through the tube underneath that access road to your pump station and get into the wetland. That was the issue.
Because I think his sewer comes from here, his sewer connection.
Mm.
Right. But for some reason, he has water coming across his property trying to get to this lowland, and his yard's real wet. And we know that in the feeder of our property, there's a lot of wetland right along that little trench there that's always wet, so.
So you'll come back with a,
Yeah, once we get that. This is hard to see. The Glendale Street Bridge is right along here. I don't know, a couple weeks
It's
ago.
falling into the river.
It's falling into the river. There's a tree branch that fell.
Hollywood
Glendale
Meadow
Street.
and Glendale and,
Pomeroy, that's further up here.
Yeah.
okay,
Before
so
that.
South Street and
Or is it west or east?
West.
West Street.
It crosses the manhand right there.
Yeah.
So like this bridge right here probably. So here's the intersection that we did a lot of work on there, the new intersection.
And town's back here?
And it's right, the bridge is there, I assume the one you're talking, right near the pipeline.
Yeah.
I'll show you where my house is later.
And this is the hill up to Strong?
Mm-mm.
No.
Nope, up
I'm still not
to,
oriented.
So Glendale
South
Grill is
Street.
here. That helps you.
keep going.
Main
It's
Street's
Isn't
over
this
here.
south right here?
This is south
Okay,
here.
That's
yeah,
south,
oh,
yeah.
that, geez, really?
There's a
I
bridge.
ride across that all the time.
Yeah, there's a-
I've just run across it twice.
If you look at the railings, you'll see that they're kind of
It's
crumbling
sketchy.
and falling apart. and,
Oh, yeah, okay.
you know, doesn't look bad from up here, but.
So, we know where we are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this bridge has steel girders underneath that are holding up the deck. And those steel girders need to be painted. So at some point,
Would you sandblast them and try to?
well,
Or just do some kind of special.
we have
recipe?
to tint the whole
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
But in order to get underneath, you're gonna,
There's not a lot of room under there.
no, but you're gonna be moving equipment
Mhm.
in and around the area. So that's a project that's gonna be coming up
Okay.
at some point in the future.
But the bridge is falling in?
No.
Well, the railings are really falling apart. It's just, it's cosmetically, I mean,
Okay.
It's
I
an
misunderstood.
80-year-old bridge.
Wow.
The railings are concrete railings.
Yeah.
And the deck is concrete as well. And, you know, with time and with salt for de-icing,
Mhm.
it wears away at the railings, so. The bridge isn't condemned.
Safer.
It's safe for travel.
just go fast.
But the thing is, the steel holds up the concrete deck.
Right.
And the steel is starting to show signs of corrosion. There are some holes in the steel members. If the city lets that keep going, then this bridge is going to get derated by DOT. And you can let it keep going and going, and at some point in time, DOT is gonna say it's not safe for any vehicles at all. And they'll put Jersey barriers on
Right.
either side, so.
No problem.
So some of the concrete things have fallen off, and you've done some repair stuff,
Yeah.
you know, to do that, to make it so you can make it look like it's a little more.
Make it look nice.
But painting the beams will
Like
stop
this whole
that
section
process.
here is missing, and they've got pieces across because all the concrete broke away.
Right.
That'll preserve the steel beams the way they are now,
Mhm.
so that the bridge won't be derated further.
Extend its life for
Yeah.
a while.
But as far as the railings, it's not gonna do anything for the.
Right.
But I think those are gonna have to get taken care of at some point, right?
Yeah, It's,
It's probably all salt damage to that.
yeah, and that might be too expensive to fix, because these railings go right into the concrete head.
All right.
There's not a lot of room, there's no shoulder on this road.
Right.
So if there was a shoulder, the fix would be to put in new posts for new
Right.
arches.
Okay, that makes sense.
But since these are right on the edge of the deck, you'd have to move them in, and there's not enough room. So I think if the railings ever have to get fixed, it's gonna require a new bridge.
Oh,
Yeah. So what we'd like to do is maintain the steel reinforcing underneath to prolong the life of the bridge. And the last one is out on Hendrick Street near Wunderlich. The Broad Brook kind of meanders through Hendricks and Wunderlich and Strong. The other culverts have head walls on either side of the road, and that protects the road, but on Hendrick Street, there is no head wall. So as the pavement cracks, runoff will seep through the pavement, take lines away, and if you ever drive out there, there's barrels that are put on either side of the road because it's starting to crack and fall into Broad Brook. The culvert itself is in good condition. It's just there's nothing keeping the road in place. It's falling off. So the project would be to install head walls on either side. That's going to be a big project.
Head walls or windmills?
Same, but probably wind walls.
It's a weird alignment.
Yes, so we would do something like that. So that's out there in the future. So that's it.
All right.
And just an update on the paving. I don't know if you guys ever get into the chapter 90 paving, but Wilson is gonna get repaved, all Plain and Strong. They're gonna get repaved.
Okay.
It's, reclaim in place.
I see.
So there's like a convoy of trucks, and the first truck heats up the asphalt.
Okay.
The second truck has these tines that kind of go through like a farmer's field and break up the asphalt. And then, they inject more glue and push it back into place. So there's no milling, there's no new
I've not seen
asphalt
that
that comes
before.
in. And then any structures that need to get raised will get raised, and a couple weeks later, another contractor's gonna come in and put a 1/4 inch asphalt seal
I see.
over everything.
All right.
That's that.
sounds good.
All right, I'll copy you on the email that I sent to Jessica, or Melissa, and everyone else, so.
Thank you.
We'll be in
Thank
touch.
you.
All right, take it easy. Catch up over there? or-
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Good, okay.
We're on enforcement orders as far as I can tell.
Well, yeah, just request restricted compliance, emergency certifications, there's nothing. I don't know anything else about 37 South Street. I guess that's, he has his reporting he has to do, and the piles removed. I had not heard back from Melissa and Groveland, from the forestry people, or anyone else, or the former Davies Farm, same thing. The 47 clearing circle, I went out there and took that picture of that little inlet, but Melissa was trying to get a hold of DEP to decide how do we handle it when we don't know where it really goes. I don't think we're talking about open space tonight, right? Nothing to talk about there. Mount Tom, haven't heard anything. Paul Street.
We have just a weekly update.
Yeah, we have a weekly update, I printed it and lost it in the pile of stuff.
It looked like they were starting to do foundations on lot 5.
Didn't look at it that close, I just printed it and
Yeah.
thought I had it with me
I
here.
think that's what, it was the one down the end, I think.
Right, so, yeah.
Neshonoc Mills, there's nothing seems to be happening there.
What about sites, Pleasant Street?
Oh, Pleasant Street, everything's paved, there's that one area where the ramp is, behind the abandoned Midland Brewery, that's very steep, and it's been so dry that nothing's growing on it. And it just looks like, it's like a washout potential place, but I know that the contractor was supposed to be trying to put the netting on it to stabilize it. I haven't been there this week to see if it was done.
I've been there. It has erosion blanket
Okay.
down and also silt fence, but the silt fence isn't even to the ground everywhere, let alone to
So it's
it
a
in.
black silt fence and not a wattle?
It doesn't look like they put wattles in on
Okay.
the other side. I
Right.
didn't
Wattles
stop
might
and look
work,
on
yeah,
the
wattles might
upward
work
side.
better, but-
Yeah, but so far there, I was out there after a couple of
Okay.
the minor rains we had and I didn't see anything to be concerned about.
The Connecticut River Oxbow boating, still waiting for them to come back to us. David Boyle's project has been moving along in Northampton Street.
Did we get any, oh, they didn't get any?
It's EDZ, sort of 184
Okay.
Northampton. He's been excavating, the site looks stable.
I think you can see a foundation.
Yeah.
For some reason, I always look at that one as I drive by. I guess because I drive by all the time.
Right. Town Beach, that has been looking stable, they just need to file to close that out. Lathrop, I haven't heard anything. Pasconomic Trust, they had started doing some things there. I hadn't been there this week, but the paving, or the parking lot looks like it's nearly complete. The shrubs are in place.
There was like a report with pictures.
Yeah, it's in this pile of debris or something. So that one's happening. Cross country, there was a report for that. Looks like they got the piers in place on that, so that's moving pretty good.
Okay, hold on a second.
Yep, sorry.
So Williston, did we get a report from them?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, good. Has anybody been by there?
Not since they poured the,
So there's water, they have hoses there, and they're like keeping it wet?
keeping what?
The bridge footings.
Oh, yeah, because they're
Is
trying,
that
it's too hot.
common?
Yeah,
It's
it's,
too- okay.
yeah, if they dry out, then
It doesn't
it
cure
degrades
right.
the concrete, yeah, so they gotta
Okay.
keep it wet, that's all.
It's pretty interesting, it's neat.
Yeah, I gotta take a swim by, I saw that report.
One of the things they said was that they had installed plantings along the one side, which I noticed when I
Okay.
was there over the weekend.
Are they watering those to keep them alive?
It would be very easy to, since they have a hose running water right down to the, yeah.
It's kind of in the shade too.
It is
so it's
shady,
not-
yeah, okay.
It's not in the open sun, so.
And it's kind of right next to the street, so
Yeah.
it's a wet-ish area.
All right, so, National Water Pond, vegetation management, I don't know if we really got a report back from anything on how that went. They did a session, right?
Yeah. No
I did-
report.
Yeah, I didn't see any emails on that. In the Loven property, we gave Mark the signed off copy, and they just have to get back to us when they have their erosion controls in place.
Wait, say that again?
Well, when they're ready to start, they have to get back to us and say the 48-hour notice, that's all.
Okay. So we're waiting
Yeah.
for,
We just gave Mark the signed copy tonight to file, so nothing's
Right.
happened, nothing's
We
happened
did?
there yet.
yeah, oh, cause
Melissa stopped and gave it to me, and I gave it to Mark.
we'd already signed
We
it.
already signed it off, yeah.
Okay.
And, well, the day that we approved it, we didn't have a copy of the thing to.
Give him.
Yeah.
Right, so hand delivered. Do we hand deliver
OOC.
the what?
Logan.
The OOC. I was like, wait, that's not on the agenda. Yes, that makes sense.
Minute wise, we cannot approve the 27th. And we can't approve the second minutes from this 27th, which are really July 11th.
Right, the other minutes.
Because we don't have the right people.
Didn't have the right number.
It really confused me when I was trying to print them out. I kept printing them out, and how do I keep printing
Well,
the
I
same one all
opened
the
it,
time?
I opened it and I was like, oh, I know what happened. Commercial facility. Do we have any mail?
We have this, I don't know what's in it. So that's multiple things.
And without Jess, maybe we didn't get the.
Looks like the East Hampton Marauder Gun Club.
Mm.
So I think we already dealt with
We did
that.
do this, didn't we?
So maybe these are just copies to be filed.
Is this signed?
It's
Yes,
all
okay.
signed and it says hand delivered. And this looks like another one that we've already dealt with.
Does it say landowner's copy?
Looking for where we signed off. So that's the copy that goes with this probably that we signed and sent by certified mail, so that, and these go together. This is all probably just for filing then, so to keep it all together.
So what was the second one?
It was.
It's the water chestnut treatment for National Pond.
Yes.
So who's the landowner on that? The town?
It was from the Fish and Wildlife.
Wait, what happened to that? Cynthia Belmar filed it.
Yeah, to do the water chestnut and they gave her a negative determination.
Yeah, we give her a negative determination, and this is just the copy that needs to get filed. It's the copy of it. They sent it by certified mail to her because we didn't have it ready that night or whatever.
Does she know when she's gonna start that?
I don't
They
know.
didn't. It has to be timed around.
So it's all signed and sent by
Purpose of
certified
treatment,
mail.
which has already been done now. I think she wanted to get there before it. That didn't happen.
So
That was an
I'll have
RDA
The
too.
other project?
With that,
There was that treatment for the other project?
just the National Eye Pond, service
Yeah, the
treatment.
one with the water and soil and stuff.
Is the water chestnut ran fully? They send people out.
How long did you do that? I did it for like a whole summer.
Did you?
Yeah,
That's fun. We've been doing it.
So
all
weird,
year.
cause I was like,
Which one's this one?
This is running then.
Okay, so that's for filing.
So did you work for Fish and Wildlife?
yeah, I know Cynthia pretty well, actually. Maybe it was a good thing I wasn't there. It would have been a conflict of interest.
Request for bed and breakfast.
I don't think that affects us.
So let's get all these things together in this folder. So where's that?
Into a room?
It's 159 Main Street. Request for bed and breakfast, but then it says it would not be a bed and breakfast because we would not offer breakfast. She just wants to run a room. That's hilarious.
Is that like a box to check?
No, it's what's handwritten in.
That's funny.
But I mean, what, why should call it a bed and
Explanation of
breakfast then?
application. I don't, maybe she didn't, maybe,
Maybe that.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a transmittal letter.
This must have been what the city deemed it, even though she says no.
Some of these things we get just because we get them.
Right, I don't
Right.
think this has
There's
anything to do with
nothing we
this.
have to do. There's no wetlands in the
They're not
property.
changing anything,
Yeah, they're not doing anything.
yeah.
It's like a zoning thing.
So do we know what we should know what the expiration date of the 11 properties, or maybe we don't though.
I can give you the date off the.
That we signed it, right?
Yeah.
It's on the ballot,
3
so-
years plus, and we signed it last meeting,
It's not that.
I think, right?
So it'd be 07, well, 11, I mean. 19.
Yeah.
It's This is 50 pages.
And we give it to Mark Reed, the Board of
Yes.
Commissions.
This is the little one, so I can go to the signature page.
I think we signed it. And delivered it.
Delivered it, I
Oh, I
wrote it
guess-
tonight, but date of issuance.
Oh, yeah, 7/11.
7/11,
19.
16.
Yeah,
16, so then it'll look like
expiration
19.
date 19.
19,
Okay.
yes.
Great.
So I guess there's not really much correspondence under the rent a room plan.
Well, I I put in that we got these 2 copies.
I think there's here because they were sent out by certified mail and they're just here for us to file, so.
Okay,
I'm not
so you
gonna
don't think I
do
should
this.
even put them in there?
I don't think so, because I think it was something that we did or Jessica did for us, and she's just giving them back to us, so.
Yeah, they would have been.
Oh, they're just back from Jessica. then.
Just back from Jessica to file, and I'll do
Gotcha.
that some other time.
Okay.
So,
So minutes will be considered next time.
Yeah,
Can I make a motion to end the meeting?
you can.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.